Welcome to Drum Share Podcast. It's Andrew Eveleigh's turn, also known as Andy Evs, according to Mel. And we've got Riza in the top corner. It's like Foursquare, whatever. In my screen, I've got in the left top is Riza. Down the bottom underneath is Mel. And over on the right, there's two other bald guys, me at the top and young Andrew. Welcome.
It is a bit like a Right Said Fred reunion here, isn't it?
Or a box of eggs, as someone said once, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Andy Evs is here. It's very exciting.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on, guys.
It is. We've talked about you many times.
Well, Riza has. Stop, is he?
Been criticised for always saying your surname.
To be honest, it's Andrew's name that's highlighted it, but you do it for everyone.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, Matt, he didn't do it yesterday when he was talking about Matt. I assumed you. No, Matt Taylorson. It was the one time that there was a genuine. Which
Two
one
people.
is relevant? That doesn't come. I just think he loves the ring of Andrew Eveleigh and the Evs. It's just got this comforting flow.
I guess can I introduce Andrew and say?
I think as soon as you've got I can see the butterflies up there, so I think you should carry on. Where's your neck scarf, mate?
So Andrew is a fabulous drummer who I met in 2020, although I didn't actually physically meet you. And
stalking
myself,
you.
Yeah. And myself, Mel and Andrew Eveleigh, that is, all met on Craig Blundell's worldwide weekend masterclass that he started up during lockdown. And Andrew, in my opinion, is one of the best standout players on that group. And currently is an active gigging drummer around the sort of south of England, well, all over the country at the moment, aren't you, with 29 Fingers?
Sure am.
And get some cream for that.
Yeah. Plays is it fair to say your preferred genre would be jazz? Jazz.
Very much these days, yes. Yeah.
And plays for his rather brilliant wife, Sarah Jane Eveleigh, who's a fabulous singer who me and Mel have seen many a time.
And songwriter. Don't forget all the original stuff that she does, which is amazing.
Yeah. So actually, Andrew, if you could go now and get Sarah in, that would be great.
So I've got her on standby. I assume that would be the case. So yeah.
And drum wise, he's one of my heroes. Obviously not personal wise, but he's inspired me to be to try and improve, to be a much better player. And we love him, and we talked about him so much, and he's finally here. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much indeed. That is a very lovely introduction. And I'm very humbled to be here, actually. I mean, I listened to the podcast and you've had some stellar guests on and stuff. So like I say, it's very flattering to be on. And thank you for that very lovely introduction. You are too kind. It's great to be here.
For the listening public, we should also explain that he's got a lovely Roland TD-27 in the background. Is that right?
That is spot on. Yeah, absolutely.
1 up, 2 down, or just 1 up, 1 down? You've got this snare on the other side.
Yeah, just 1 up, 1 down. Yeah. Slightly obscured by the back of the sofa, but yeah.
I tend to like the 1 up, 1 down. The problem is you always find that because you've got extra sounds to play with on electric kit, that you could make them into tambourines or whatever. You kind of think that you're missing out if you don't put all the pads on. But
there is that temptation, and well, as Riza will attest as well, though, I'm kind of it's funny, like I have that kit there, and other than a very occasional exploration past kit number 1, I'm kind of one of these players that just, it comes out the box and I turn it on and I play it as it is. So it's criminal, really. I know that thing can do an awful lot, but I haven't really done a huge amount of exploring of all of that. But Yeah, I flip between standard drum kit number 1 and the Jazz Bop kit, which is about number 4, and that's about as far as I've got.
Well, on
but
the
it sounds great.
On the 27, the Jazz one brings the snare drum out the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I was selling those kits in the shop, I'm trying to show people what's good about the digital snare, what's the main thing. And there are some drum kits on that 27 that don't really demonstrate the sensitivity of that pad.
Yeah.
So I just I say, look, this is my line. I always say, most of the electronic drum kits sound good and the same when you hit them, like when you whack the life out of them. It's you can tell the more expensive and the better ones, the lighter you touch them. And so I just literally tell them to put the headphones on, and I get a stick and I just drop it on the snare and let it roll.
Yeah, beautiful.
But I do it on the jazz session one.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh wow,
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing is I've noticed with the 316 that I've got now, and I've got the digital snare as well. And I've noticed that some of the standard kits, if you don't mess with them, some of them haven't got snare buzz on the toms or on the bass drum. So when you go in and you just add a little bit of snare buzz on those toms, it just absolutely makes a massive difference. Like it brings them much more alive, because you just watch when you go back to your kit, have a little look and see whether snare buzz is on, and if not, try and gradually put it on.
I think I'm one step further than Andrew, but not much, in that I've built several kits on my TD27, and really there are just 2 or 3 that I always use. I've never really gone into the preset ones.
Have you done the snare buzz?
Well, I'll have to check, because my starting point for all the kits I built was copying and pasting anyhow and then modifying.
Yeah.
So I'll have to check whether snare buzz is on or off. I've never thought about it.
Same with the 17, Mel.
Yeah, I'm clocked that already. I mean, I assumed it wasn't the same for the 17, but I was going to look.
Do you put it on for the kit or for the drum?
Yeah, for the kick as well. Because if you think about when you hit a real bass drum.
No, sorry, kit or for each individual drum?
I think it might depend on the module. So on the 316 now, on the newer modules, you can actually adjust the amount of snare buzz per tom or per pad. So you can really put a lot more on the floor tom, because naturally that might resonate the snare more. But yeah, I'm getting a bit into the geeky side, technical side of the Roland, but it's just to inspire me. But today I was playing the 316 earlier, and I was playing one of the Slingerland downloads, because you can download the Slingerland kits and all that, and that's just fantastic. But I did notice a massive difference when I thought, why do these toms sound a bit, electronic? And then I noticed there was no snare bars, and I started putting them on, and it just brought them alive. Anyway,
it's the strangest thing though that you say that, because this is no word of a lie. I mean, I've owned this is my 3rd Roland kit now, over probably 15, 20 years or whatever it is, and only this morning, whilst on that drum kit and having a small rehearsal here in the living room, did I think, God, I've never really paid attention to the fact that when you hit a real tom, there's snare buzz. And this is no word of a lie. It literally was this morning. It was the first time in my life I ever even thought of that concept. Didn't even know you could dial it in. And now you mentioned it a mere 12 hours later, and that is extremely
spooky,
odd. So I will look at it. Yeah, no, it genuinely is spooky. I'd never considered it before. It's very odd.
Wow, I'm buzzing, man.
The thing about you and your censored snares, which I'm jealous of having the 17, is when I was watching Riza play, and the fact it's got the sensitivity when he's doing a cross stick. And that little extra finger motion, and the fact mine, there's nothing. You can't hear anything at all. I also can't do that, but
so it doesn't matter then.
So being as aspiring to maybe one day but seeing the sensitivity on it is insane. Yeah. It's ruined my kit, having played Riza's.
The other thing about the 17 and the 316 as it comes out of the box is that when you move over to the let's get that right, cross stick, you have to press the button for the cross stick to work. So if you don't, it'll just be a rim shot. And the non-drummers might not know the difference, and some people call them the wrong things. I had a friend of mine who's bought a kit in Australia, and he was calling it rim shot, saying, "Where's the rim shot? Can't get it." And I'm like, "No, that's not." I mean, he's a pianist, so we'll let him off. But he did play the drums in the 70s.
One of my pet hates when guitarists or singers tell you got to play a rim shot.
Yeah, yeah. Giving them a shot across the anyway. But yeah, so the unfortunately the standard 316 and the standard 17, you have to press a button. But when you put the digital snare on the 316, it does it automatically like it does on the others. Anyway, let's probably move on from the Roland tech talk.
Okay, Andrew is actually, you're not technically that. So 50% of us on this podcast are also Hive snare players.
Don't give that. We've all got Hive drums in. We've all got a Hive snare drum in our house.
Well, not Mel, actually.
I don't.
Oh, sorry.
I bought one which is in his place.
Of course, right.
I've got some lug locks.
I've got lug locks, the orange ones. Yeah.
I got purple ones because they go with my kit.
Yeah, Andrew's got a very blingy Hive drum, haven't you? Like it's gold and silver all over the show.
Your favourite colour combination, Reese. As you've told me many times, you're very jealous of the finish on my Hive drum. I don't know what Matt, what's your opinion on? So it's just the raw aluminium shell and the brass lugs. And I just think it's a thing of beauty, and Reese's he's not on board with it.
There are occasions when it works and there are occasions when it don't. So traditionally, people of our age-ish, when I say our age, but I'll include Riza, the gold and silver jewellery is a no-no.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Which is why I'm surprised. I love this. Yeah,
it's a complete no-no. The saying that, on the jewellery side, my wife, when I bought her engagement ring, it was it's like a similar, like a wedding band. It's got two like collars that hold the diamond in the middle, and those collars are gold, and that worked really nice. The white gold, the gold, and then the million carat diamond, whatever it is, right? So that actually works really nice. So to be fair, it swings and roundabouts, and I do think it depends on the color of gold. If it's a very yellow gold, maybe not. But then the Tau kit that we've got, the Zenith kit, that's got very subtle gold. I think they're goldy inserts, but the silver, chunky silver lugs, and that is a really nice touch. I think Pearl do it on their reference ones or the high end ones. They have the one that Grayson Recruitment was playing not long in Norwich the other day. Chunky big lugs with silver and gold, and I think it works in certain places.
I personally, when I'm running the country, I'm going to ban gold and silver mixed. It's just I'll first day in power. That's what I'll do.
Yeah. Okay.
It's never even crossed my mind. I wear gold and silver jewelry all the time. It doesn't seem to bother you.
Oops. Backpedal on that one quick.
No. Anything looks great on you.
On blondes it's fine, but on
maybe it's just people with hair that it looks good on.
Yeah, it's you. It's you.
I think you men think far too deeply about what color you talking about, your checks and stripes and what was it? I'm still blown away by the blue and black, Matt. I'd never heard that wasn't.
You can wear denim and black, but you're not went to. So I've got because obviously as Andrew, I've got roll neck jumpers because I hate having a cold neck. Like if this is I have to have a high neck most of the time. It's in the summer, it's a pain in the ass, but I've got like quite slim, skinny roll necks. I've got blue and I've got black. And when you look at them, you're like, is it blue or black? Depends on the time of day you get dressed or if the light's on. And the worst thing would be to put on a blue roll neck and then put my black jumper over the top, because I might have a round neck jumper with a roll neck underneath, like my Anderson's jumper that I wear. Sometimes I wear the thin roll neck underneath if it's a cold day. And if I get to work and I've got dressed in the dark and I realise I've got a blue one and a black one, it's too close. They're just too close.
Yeah,
God, I just don't put that much thought into it.
I think if they're close, it can be dodgy. But I'm not averse to mixing blue and black.
I'm regretting this whole conversation now, because you're going to bring out, well, it depends if it's smart or casual belt shoe combo, which I was slightly uncomfortable.
I've got to admit, I'd never heard of this like belt and shoes framing. I was quite impressed with that on the last podcast, actually. So yeah, I was
such an eye opener.
Incredible.
I just get dressed.
Short person.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, if I was a tall bloke like either of you two, different rules apply. One of these.
You said two. There's three of us here. So who's the other one? Mel.
Actually, I think Mel's probably the tallest out of all of us.
Yeah, probably.
Sorry, Andrew. Did you think we were going to talk about drumming and stuff?
Hell no, I've been listening to the podcast. I know.
The thing is with me, I will wear a brown belt, but I will never tuck my jumper in. So I know I've got brown boots on.
Oh no, I think
I think my jumper
tucking isn't right at all.
Well, not jumper, but I don't tuck anything in, right?
Okay.
So like if I wear a
You've
belt,
got to be careful with your buckle and your tummy then. Because I find if you
sometimes I just tuck it in there when I'm sitting down, especially with the overhang. But I genuinely don't need to care about what colour my belt is, because no one really sees it. But I know that I've got a black belt and black boots, and I've got brown belt. But that's just me, man. By the way, I used to work in fashion. I worked in Next.
Did you get fired?
I worked in Next, and I worked for Moss Brothers. So I used to sort of measure people up. I could measure you guys up. You're 15 and a half collie there, over there. Or you're probably a 14 and a half, Reese. Yeah, so I used to work in fashion.
Wow. I take it all back up. I need to make more of an effort. I'm very outvoted in this attention to detail thing.
You live in the country though. Like I suppose London is a bit more, style conscious.
Yeah. Look at us.
Right, drums.
Right. Andrew.
Riza.
So, if I remembered this right, that you went to Drum Tech, was it? I know. Actually, now I'm being bashful. I know I've remembered that right. So tell us. So you started off. You went to Drum Tech when you were how old?
How old would I have been? That's a good question. 27, I guess, something like that. I went in. So I went in 2004, which is, oh my God, it's frightening to say that now, like 22 years ago. And it was, well, basically, I mean, I started playing drums in school. That was kind of my way in. Just joined a band, played some Beatles covers. It was that whole kind of thing, playing in the school concerts and, joining a school band. And I was just self-taught for all that time. I started around the age of maybe 14. So yeah, first however many years, just self-taught. And I was working, I'd come up to living in Brentford, actually. My brother I've got a brother who's 4 years older than me. He was living in London, playing guitar and in a band. And he was like, move to London and we're going to hit the scene and become famous rock stars and the whole thing. So up I came and we did a house share. And yeah, just kind of playing the original circuit around London. And I had a job at that time then working for Samsung Electronics. So because my background, like my whole studying thing previously, I've got a degree in business studies, like nothing related to music. So drumming was kind of a hobby at that point. And then, yeah, I kind of got a bit sick of the corporate world pretty quickly, about 2 years in, and decided I'd give Drum Tech a try. So I did the 1 year diploma course. So I kind of left and went full time to do that. And that was my first ever drum lesson. So it was fascinating.
Was in Ealing, wasn't it, or Acton?
Acton, yeah, Acton, yeah.
I don't know what Drum Tech is.
So it's kind of the precursor to BIM. I think that's pretty much what BIM now is, I think, I may have that wrong, don't quote me on it, but it's essentially, it's been around an awfully long time, but I guess it was one of the first kind of more contemporary drum and music schools, because they were known as tech schools, and there was drum tech, bass tech, guitar tech, vocal tech, all part of the same branding thing.
I feel like it was more parallel to ACM sort of.
Yeah, again, I think similar vibe in that respect,
Was it a polytechnic? Is that what
and they did. So I did like 1 year diploma. You could stay on they did degree course, and they did kind of beyond it and everything. So I did the 1 year diploma, and it was fascinating because I went in, and at this point I'd only been kicking around in bands, and as I say, purely self-taught, and to go in and think like, I feel like I'm an okay player, and then just to have everything kind of stripped down and started from scratch, it was incredible. So I had 10 months there of pretty much 5 day a week lectures and tuition and stuff. So it was a very intense learning period. And of course, it's all group tuition at that point, so I'd never had like one-to-one lessons or something. I just kind of went in and did the diploma and popped out the other end after a year of sort of training. And it was great. I mean, I learned an awful lot there. There's, no question. It was amazing. But it's funny, it's, I feel like things have, from what I gather, I think things have changed a little bit in the music colleges now, because the fact is you kind of go on these courses, or certainly when I did it, and the drum tuition is amazing. You're working with incredible tutors, and you're just in that environment 24/7. You really have a mindset of studying and all the rest of it. But then suddenly 10 months ends, and you pop out the other end, and then you're a bit like, now what do I do? There was nothing preparing you for, right, you need to find gigs now. You got to, which I know, there's a naivety there as well, no question. Of course, you've got to go out and find the work sort of thing, but there was no preparation for that. And I've got a feeling now that a lot of these contemporary courses, they do kind of include some kind of modules or syllabuses for preparing you for that, whether these days it'll be things like social media, or business plans for how you're going to get out there, or marketing yourself and all of this kind of stuff, which didn't really happen. So I popped out the other end, feeling like a pretty good, confident player. But then I was like, shit, now what do I do? So after not that long a period, I kind of ended up back in normal day job scenario. And it was a bit weird. Yeah.
So when you were in the day job, were you still actively playing drumming?
Yeah, as much as I could. And at that point, though, of course, having had like a year out, tuition fees, and living without working for that period and everything, I ended up sort of going back to Wales, where I grew up for some time. So I was sort of flitting between trying to make a bit of a career there. At this point, Sarah and I had met, and we were together. So I was she was up this end, and I was thinking about coming back to London and stuff. So there was just a bit of a limbo period for a few years, really. And then I kind of headed back this way. And it was funny. I'd gone in, it was one Christmas time, actually. I'd gone into a temp agency just to get a little bit of work over a Christmas period in an office. And 12 years later, I left that job. And it was just like, I mean, we can come on to that in a second. And thankfully, that for me was the last time that I did leave corporate life and then look at music in a more serious way. And so that took me up to basically 2022. So I kind of, quote unquote, turned pro in 2022. And I still, it's weird. I'm a few years into this now, obviously, but it still feels very odd using that terminology, because I think it comes with a certain gravitas, and like most musicians, you're very full of self-doubt and self-deprecating and all of this kind of stuff. So I love it. I kind of love the fact that I'm able to go, I'm a professional drummer. But it's still a very, very almost uncomfortable thing to say as well. It's taken me a long time to be able to sort of say the words. It's strange psychology behind it all, I guess.
Yeah, but you are, aren't you? I mean, so tell us, I mean, when we met, this was kind of lockdown, wasn't it? 2020.
Yeah.
And you were, I think, at that point, contemplating turning pro.
Yeah.
And then go on.
No, so yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I guess it had been something that had been on my mind for an awfully long time, because throughout that whole period, I was just working in kind of a couple of function bands and stuff. So I mean, the thing is, there's no question. From the day I picked up a pair of sticks at about 14, as it is for so many of us, of course. I'm sure all three of you included here. Like, it's a life-changing moment when you discover drums and you really deeply fall in love with it. So it's always been like a very serious hobby, but I never assumed it could potentially be more than that. As I say, even after popping out of something like drum tech, I kind of felt like, oh, okay, well, that was a nice way to spend 12 months. Now I need to go back and do the day job. And so yeah, it had been on my mind for an awfully long time, and I can't deny. I mean, certainly towards the end of it, it was very, very negatively impacting my mental health. There's no question. I'm very open about all of this stuff now. I sought therapy and stuff for a couple of years to try and get to the bottom of everything and stuff. And I think it was very evident that there was just a lot of unhappiness in the way my life was with the work that I was doing and stuff. And I was very fortunate, actually, with the company that I was working for. It just kind of, from a timing-wise perspective, they were offering some redundancies. And it just was that moment that it's like, you know what, if you don't take this now, you will never do it. So I can't deny there was obviously, as a consequence of that, a little bit of a cushion then to fall back on if I needed it. So that helped, I think, with the decision to go, because up until that point, I don't think I was really brave enough to kind of do it myself. I'm quite a cautious person generally, so it wasn't like I even with all the struggles I was kind of going through, I still don't think I would have had the balls to just go, do you know what, I'm quitting my job, I'm going to try and become a drummer. So that redundancy thing kind of just pushed me over into taking that decision. And it's just incredible. Like I guess a lot of things do work out in your life when you actually find yourself in that situation. They find a way of working out, or rather you find a way of making it work, because your mindset's very different then at that point. It's no longer just a pipe dream, it's a reality, and you're in it and you have to make it work. So you've got to find work and start teaching and find the gigs and stuff, and I had a few quite serendipitous things happen along the way, which I'm really grateful for, and a couple of lucky breaks and stuff, but again, I think it's if you're open to those things, they sort of present themselves differently to if you're stuck doing something else. You don't see them, you maybe don't see the opportunities in the same way, because you kind of think, what's the point? I can't take them if they come along anyway, sort of thing. Whereas when you're suddenly out of work and looking for this stuff, it's quite surprising how things, kind of come towards you. Well, certainly my experience of it was that.
I have two examples of where an example. First of all, Angie, my wife, was made redundant many years ago from the bank. And because of that, she was in effect enabled to retrain, take a year out to go back to do the 1 year extra to be a teacher.
Amazing.
She already had a degree. So because of that, she got enough money for covering her for the year. And then she finished her training and started a job straight away, like the September. Sadly, awesome. We'd had a baby in the middle, so she had to go back quite early because she wasn't entitled to the maternity pay. But anyway, that gave her an opportunity, and I think that's And the second, that was great for her. I'm a little bit try not to be bitter, but I'm a little bit not in that boat, and we've had a few opportunities in my business where redundancies could have happened and haven't for me, have for other people, which is many ways people would see that as a good thing. Oh, your job's safe, you're lucky. But the good thing about a redundancy, the positive, the half full element of it, is that if you are made redundant, it's not your fault. You've not put yourself in a position recklessly.
Yeah.
And if you come out of it on top by putting all the effort in to do what you want to do and to get back on, get back into work or whatever, then you're a hero. You've got a mission, and you can be that, not a hero, but you can, it's not like you've put people in a position by choosing to give up and go and be a drummer or follow your dream.
Yeah.
So in many ways, it gives the opportunity for you to follow your dream. I'm still waiting for
you're
mine.
right.
But it's a good way of looking at what in many ways would be a scary time
Yeah.
and a a big deal.
Yeah. No, it's huge. It's I mean, it's the biggest decision I've ever made. There's no question. And it's, I think a lot depends, of course, on the character you are, because if I was just more of a, I don't know, ambitious or whatever the word is, like person, I could have maybe done this years ago. And the interesting thing that came out of all of this is that, I took that redundancy, like I say, that gave me the courage a little bit to do it, because I knew I had something to fall back on. But in the end, I kind of didn't need that either. So it's surprising, it has a way of galvanizing you into just getting on with things anyway. So as a consequence, you could, I sort of look back and think, well, bloody hell, I could have maybe done this 10 years ago, But then I'm so much everything for a reason kind of guy. So there's part of me that regrets not doing it sooner, but then there's part of me that thinks, well, had I have done it 10 years ago, that would have been a different stage of my life. I'd have been a different age. I don't know whether I would have got the work. You never know kind of how that would have panned out, sort of thing. So I think given that I've done this at quite a later stage relatively in my life to have such a vast career change, it's kind of given me a different perspective on it than when I speak to, I'm in a band that's a collective of, there's kind of 50, 60 of us, and there's a lot of young players in there who are just coming like straight out of uni or whatever. And it's incredible to watch that difference in the confidence of youth, and especially with the younger guys these days, and they're multi-instrumentalists, they're multi-talented, and they're just kind of doing it straight off the bat now at a young age. And I think, my whole perspective would have been different at that age. I think I'd take it maybe not more seriously now, but I think, as you get older, of course, your perspective shifts a little bit, So I feel like I'm coming at it very much so. I mean, truly. I mean, I'm blessed to have this opportunity now. There's no question.
Yeah, I think there's that entitled thing about the young people that haven't, and I'm not saying that all young people, but like, if anything like this happens to us now, all us four people, don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting to be a pro drummer any day of the week, but if something happened which meant we could change our life and be more creative and do the things we want to do, we are suddenly super grateful. Whereas if you get given it at the beginning, or if it's just like you haven't worked as hard, or you haven't seen another life, or you haven't, you might not appreciate how amazing opportunities some of these kids have that go straight from college straight into this, and they're in these beautiful recording studios and gigs, and like people like us be like, oh, I'd love to be in, Anyway, so I was just jumping in. What was you saying, Mel?
When you turned professional then and gave up the day job, Andrew, in 2022, what drumming were you doing at that point? What were you in a band, or were you in? How much drumming were you fitting into your life?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, not like an enormous amount, because I wasn't in like a regular working function band or anything at that point, and I didn't have any students. So I mean, it is an interesting, like I say, topic of conversation, and the way things maybe gravitate towards you a little bit when you just find yourself in that position of needing to do it, because it's, like I say again, I think hence why I feel I do still occasionally feel quite a little uncomfortable with that term, like I'm a professional musician, because I think honestly, like I'm looking around the four squares on this Zoom call now, and the fact is, all four of us could be professional musicians if I judge it by my standards, because I've gone out and just found a bunch of students, which I want to come back to, Mel, actually listening to your podcast yesterday, like so inspirational, just incredible.
The one that inspired me, so right back at you. You just
beautiful. So mutual inspiration is, but no, truly,
it sound doable.
Matt, you inspired me, to be honest.
No, I don't think I've inspired anyone for a while, but carry on.
But no, I was just joining in the love fest.
Thanks.
No, but it's fascinating though, that thing of like, see, this is where I guess my perspective has shifted now. And for all the years that I was terrified to take a risk of becoming what my version of a professional musician was, I now realize that what I was thinking that would be is just vastly different to the reality. Because I always had that thing of like, well, I'm not good enough yet. I need to learn more, or I need more skills, or I need more networking opportunities, or I need more bands straight off the bat and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, to be a professional in anything, you have to earn money doing it. And, all of us are able to teach people and play drums. And ultimately that's where my career now is that it's a mixture of those two things. I mean, for me, I'm super grateful for the teaching opportunities that I have right now. But I think while I still have the enthusiasm, like huge enthusiasm and currently energy to be traipsing all up and down the country every weekend and playing music, I'd rather that the ratio was a little more on the playing side and less on the teaching side, because the day will come with that balance tips, and I don't want to drive to Newcastle for a gig on a Saturday, and I'll want to fall back on a bit more teaching kind of thing. So it's a difficult ratio to sort of balance out and everything. But irrespective, the point being, the mixture of those two things pays my rent. Ergo, I'm a professional musician, But that wasn't what I thought a professional musician had to be. I thought, oh, you've got to be the best of the best. You've got to be only working in like high-end gigs or touring the world or whatever. We have this idea of what it's going to be, and then in the end, if you can just make some money doing that thing you love, then now that's how I view a professional. At least that's what I'm telling myself, anyway.
And I look at you and think of you as living the dream. You're making a living out of drumming or teaching drumming. But
yeah,
I mean, just for people listening, you teach, and you've got two main gigs, really, Sarah and 29 Fingers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, I teach now. My teaching roster is quite nice. It's kind of spread out over a few days. So I work for 3 different schools, and I've got a few private students. And that, I mean, talk about baptism of fire. I mean, my God, like up until this, I'd taught maybe just a handful of people very sporadically in my life, giving them some pointers and that kind of thing, But then suddenly you just like, I had this interview for a job in a school and turned up, and it's like, right, you got 12 students, off you go, and they're all at various grade levels and whatever. And like, there's no denying, it's the most terrified I've been. Like, crazy fear about the whole thing. And it's because I think it's an interesting thing, especially I would say with music tuition, is that there are a lot of good players out there, but nothing prepares you for all of those individual relationships you have to build with every single student. Like every single one of them is so different. And those first few weeks, even months, where you're looking through your kind of prep notes for the next week, and you can't even picture the kid that you've written these notes about or whatever, you just literally going in a bit blind every day for those first few weeks. And it's bloody terrifying, but it's good terrifying. There's that old cliche, isn't it? Like what is it? A bad day in the school is better than a good day in the office, or whatever that sort of thing was. So I'm always mindful of that thing, that whatever stresses have come with taking this on, I'm still 100% no regrets, and I'm really glad I'm doing it. But there's no doubt it's the hardest I've ever had to work, and it's something that you just never ever then switch off from. But that's not a negative thing. I'm not saying it is. It's very much because you want it to be a part of your life, and music is pretty much with you all day, every day. So it sort of ends up being this thing that is with you all the time. But you soon realize, I came from 12 years of security, of kind of a regular paycheck and knowing what times I had to be in this place, and essentially a manager or a boss telling me what I had to do each day. My work was effectively therefore planned out for me, and all of this stuff, and me being me, it's kind of double-edged, there's 50-50 that part of me sort of hated what felt quite being quite trapped in that environment, but also there was an enormous comfort in all of that, and then you're suddenly the one who has to do the marketing and the accounting and the chasing down and the emails. And I mean, honestly, the hours teaching and gigging is such a small portion of the work that you do is the biggest thing I've taken away from this. It's very stressful becoming your own boss all of a sudden overnight, and having all these relationships to build, with kids and adults and everything in between. But it's fabulous. You learn a lot about yourself. And back to the topics you were talking about on the last podcast regarding teaching and stuff, that I absolutely echo what you said. You've heard other teachers say, is that you just learn a lot as well about drumming as you teach, even coming back down to some basics.
Yeah, I was just going to ask how, and obviously Mel's just starting teaching as well.
Yeah.
But to you, how does teaching affect your playing?
That's a great question, because it's at the moment I don't know how much it hugely affects my playing, because predominantly I'm teaching students who are studying the lower grades. So it is stuff that I'm sort of reasonably comfortable playing. I mean, I'm not a great sight reader. I'll put it straight out there. Like, I've really got to work at it. And I'm not on reading gigs and stuff, which I think that's the single biggest regret that I've got in all the years that I've been playing, is that I just didn't put more time into reading, because there have been gigs now since I've turned pro that I've kind of had to say no thank you to, because I know I've not got my reading chops up, So there's no doubt that while I am teaching, that is sharpening up for sure, because you're seeing a lot more of the stuff daily, even if it could just be basic patterns, but your recognition starts to improve and all of this stuff. So certainly it'll definitely benefit me in the long run. And I think as my students go into higher grades and I'm having to tackle far more challenging pieces, it can only help, with all aspects of the playing, because you'll just be introduced to new material that you wouldn't have otherwise necessarily played as well, So I think it can only be advantageous, whether you're teaching literally the beat one and listening then at that point for all the nuance, because you can play the beat easily, or right the way through to something that's very technical. So you're having to go home and just try and stay one step ahead of your student by learning it that week quickly, which is frightening, because there are some really, really talented young kids out there. So.
I think for confidence, like not just drumming, but like, for instance, this week or last Saturday in the shop, the guy that is full time wasn't there, so it was just me in my department, and there was another guy coming down from the guitar side who's interested in drumming and does a bit of drumming. And when I'm with someone that is more experienced or does it more often or what have you, I kind of tend to sit back and kind of let them do it, and then just I fit into the role of assistant, I suppose.
Yeah.
In the drumming world, it'd be different. If I was teaching, and this last week, I was much more on top of it, and I was, I sort of lived up to the role of taking charge of that department for that day. And I think in teaching, confidence-wise, I mean, I always go on about, not being very confident at playing, but I think if I was showing I think when you show someone that the drums, who knows hardly anything, like how to hold the stick, where to, what the hi-hat is, when you're at that level and, a little bit further up, the things that you've taken for granted, that you just are second nature, that you don't think is clever to know, you start realizing, actually, I know a bit more than I thought I knew.
Yeah.
And I think from a confidence perspective, you teaching people that are no less than you will just boost you up, and then that will be helpful in itself, because sometimes the way you play, or the way I play, is down to the mood, the sound I'm getting back in my ears, and whether I've got a backache, and just how I'm feeling in a good place. So I might play a lot better one day, and the next day play a lot worse, just because those things have adjusted, and that's affected the way I've played, because I'm not a robot and I'm human, and I play, So I think if you're teaching people, for me, I think it would help to sort of go, okay, I do know this, and also if I know I've got to teach this person to read these 4 bars, I will know how to read them.
Yeah.
And I will teach myself, or remind myself of what that means.
Yeah.
So I think that, and I think you were saying similar, Mel, about how it's.
I mean, I'm very much aware of my level, so I only advertise that I'm doing beginner lessons. And the only one of the kids that's come to me has had one term with another teacher, so he is obviously much more confident than any of the others. But it was exactly that. It was doing the bucket drumming at school when I was going around all of these kids from 4 to 11, adjusting their grip, showing them how to hold it, showing the drift, and it was like, and that made me think, God, I really do. And I should. I've only been doing this for 10 years, which is less, but still way, way long enough to be definitely a lot better than I am. But the number of drum camps I've been on and lessons that I've had, it was a kick up the arse that, come on, I have more faith in myself that I can do this introduction to drumming, and realize I know a lot more than I thought I did.
That's what you discover about yourself, I think, a lot, is because you go in with a lot of self-doubt, and it is those moments where you realize, yeah, actually there's a wealth of knowledge that that we all have, that you're able to share, and it goes way beyond just playing a beat or a fill. There is so much more, of course, to it than that. And I think the one thing that I would say to anyone who's considering teaching, that was probably my biggest fear, which has now pretty much been eradicated, is that I kind of thought, oh man, like I've just got to be able to play every song in every grade book that ever existed and just demonstrate the whole thing, like on the fly and whatever. And honest to God, I barely pick up sticks when I'm teaching. I mean, like all of the facilities bar one that I teach from, and including here even privately, just has one drum set as well. I figured there'd be all this thing where you're on one drum set, students on another, and you're constantly having to demonstrate what's going on. But I was fascinated by the fact that, in an average week, I barely play the drums because you're getting them to figure it out, which is great. It buys you some time as well then while you're trying to figure it out behind them quickly, and but you ask them to break it down, and then they learn more because they're going on that journey rather than you just showing them and stuff. So there's so much, there's so many kind of better ways, really, I suppose, of even educating these people than just going, right, this is how it goes, copy what you see me do. You want them to do the work anyway in the first place. So that kind of fear went pretty quickly. That is, you're not just kind of going to be expected to jump on a kit and be blazing,
One of the mums came round and she said they just bought this little Mapex. It's not a junior kit, but it looks a very little adult kit. I think it is exactly what I need, really. And she was saying, I kept telling him not to hit, just to hit the middle bit, just hit the middle. You're not meant to touch anything else. You just hit the middle bit. And I sat down and I said, well, actually, this is a rim shot, and that's the sound it makes difference. This is a cross stick. And then I've just been doing sit down in Riza's band. Yeah. And I said, and you can play on the rim of the tom or the, and I was listening to her, I was going, I really sound like I know what I'm talking about. And she was going, oh my God, I had no idea. And the two kids, I was going, oh my God. And I was sitting there going, do you know what? I'm just going to take this moment. And it's so simple. And it's something that anyone that's really done any drumming knows. But when you come across people that have never done anything to do with drumming, you are a wealth of knowledge, and you do stay, I've got a good few weeks in me before I start stressing about them overtaking me. But it's a real eye-opener as to pushing yourself out your comfort zone the whole time and sounding like you know what you're talking about and realizing actually you do.
That you do, yeah. I think Matt touched on it a few minutes ago, that thing of kind of like it's very, very easy to take for granted all the stuff that we already know, because you just don't know it until you're told it or is shown it. I have an adult student in particular who comes here, and almost every week he kind of goes, oh, great, there it is, the light bulb moment again. It's become a bit of a running joke because there's something that'll just click with him. And always he says to me, God, it's so bloody obvious now. And it's like, well, it's only obvious once you've been told it, it's that kind of thing, and we're all discovering. Again, I'm sorry to keep talking about the podcast that you did yesterday, but it struck so many chords with me, that thing, about always being a student as well. Like Riza, I was fascinated by your very binary approach to being, I can't be a teacher because I'm a student. I mean, I'm having drum lessons and I want to have them for the rest of my life, but I still want to teach, and I think that the two things can very happily run alongside each other, So all these things, they're super fascinating, the way we all kind of think about them or approach them, or it's interesting.
I read a fascinating quote from Peter Erskine who keeps coming up, doesn't he, in this podcast this morning?
It's coming in next week, actually.
Yeah,
Not.
but it's a quote that he quoted from someone else. So apologies, I can't remember who said it originally, but it was, where does good judgment come from? And the answer is experience. And then it's, where does experience come from? And the answer to that is bad judgment.
It has like Morgan Freeman. Sounds like the sort of thing Morgan Freeman would say.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was, I think, from another musician. But, you know, it kind of made me think, like, it's what you're saying. We've made mistakes, haven't we? And learned from them. And we've had teachers, and suddenly you're passing it on. It's fabulous.
Absolutely.
I still don't think I can teach, because smacking children around the head in order to get them to understand is strangely frowned upon.
It is. They've stopped
it's
doing
a
that
problem.
now. Yeah, progress. I mean, I think I've had a taster with an unexpected side of me taking on a Saturday job, age 50 plus. You know, and that's being in this place where these parents do come in and they have no idea about anything. Little Johnny's 4. He's started showing an interest in the drum kit. I'd like to buy him, you know, something. What's he need, and what's a stick, and what's a drum, you know? And we're at that kind of level. And then suddenly I've had this little taster in showing, you know, how to sit and boom chicken. So I kind of, that has kind of suggested to me that I never expected that from going to a shop and selling, you know, electronic kits mostly, but other stuff as well, percussion and drums. But I think it's given me that little thing. And then my son at the same time started to teach, and it's spreading amongst, you know, this group, you know, with Mel doing what she's doing, me thinking about doing something like it. And again, I would go to a low level. It would never be anything more than, you know, first time drummer to beginner. And then you'd have to say, look, if you want to do grades, you'd have to sort of have a cut off. I could take you to grade whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. So it's a good idea to have a look at the books and see what's expected, I think. Not that grades are everything, but they are a good framework. Especially for kids in schools.
Sorry. Yeah, no, this is what I'm finding. I mean, obviously in the school system, it's kind of grade heavy because, you know, the parents are then paying for these lessons externally to the general academic studies and stuff, and they want to see those certificates at the end of it. But on a private teaching level, it's I don't do a lot with them. You know, they're a very useful teaching tool, but I think totally kind of depends on the environment and the student and stuff. But I think, Matt, you undersell yourself. I mean, like I from the stuff I have seen you play, you're a tasty player, man. My God alive, I've seen your posts.
Yeah, thanks. If you strip off the music and it's just the same rhythm, but it is. It's just all smoke and mirrors. But the grade system for school people that are at school obviously helps with points towards GCSEs.
Yes.
And UCAS. So if you go, everything from 6 upwards is UCAS. Yeah. And I think grade 5 is GCSE, gives you points.
Yeah.
So how little did I realise how important that would be for my boy when he went to uni. So I wish he'd got to 8 before he went to uni, because he went to 6. But that 6 merit gave him, I think, 10 points UCAS that he needed. So
that's great.
That's the sort of that's kind of like, sometimes I didn't know that. I've been around this business for a long time. I didn't know. I don't pay attention to certain things maybe, but maybe parents should know that, because that, or, you know, might think, okay, my kid needs a little bit of extra to get an extra point for his GCSE.
Yeah.
So
no, I think it's a wonderful way. And if you've maybe got some students as well who are not doing so strongly on the academic side, but they are creative and musical, it's such an amazing way to build those points, as you say. So yeah, it's great.
And to take part in school, because some people otherwise, if they don't have music and they're not academic, they could go another route, which is the route we don't want them to go in. Yeah, and absolutely. I think it means they take part in school. Sorry, sport. Yes, we don't want to go that route. It's bad for them. Might break an ankle or something.
But yeah, so
changing subjects slightly.
Clarinet.
No, Andrew, I guess your biggest I might be putting words in your mouth. Your biggest pleasure gig is playing with Sarah, poor Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah. So for those who don't know, Sarah Jane Eveleigh is Andrew's wife and fantastic singer. Look her up; she's brilliant. But how is it? Where are the boundaries when you are fundamentally as drummers we're sidemen, and there you are. Sarah is very much the main event, isn't it? It's the Sarah Jane Eveleigh band.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How
and that's
does that
exactly
work?
it. And I do what I'm told. So it's a perfect
marriage,
relationship.
isn't it?
It's fine. Yeah. No, it's a really fair question because interestingly, we know quite a lot of other people who are kind of couples and both musicians and stuff, and I'm not sure how it always works. For us, it's like I'd say it's the absolute glue that sort of sticks us together. And I mean, it's so lovely. People comment on it, the way we will interact with each other and stuff on stage and stuff. And I have so much respect for Sarah as a vocalist and knowing what she wants out of a band, so it's amazing. Obviously, she relies on me to provide the drums on this stuff, but she is never short of ideas for if she wants a feel changing or a tempo doing. I mean, she's like, of all the the singers that I kind of have been lucky enough to work with and stuff, like honestly, I can't praise her enough for things like counting the songs in. It seems like such a silly thing, but it's amazing. I mean, like, Sarah runs vocal workshops now and again, and it's something that comes up time and time again, that for a lot of vocalists is quite hard to quickly in the moment think about the tempo that you want, so you can fit the words in how you want to do it and get the feel that you want and whatever, and confidently count a quartet in, for example, and stuff, whereas she's so definite about what she wants and how she wants it to go. So as a consequence, it puts confidence in the band, and then we're all off and running, and it's great. So I love working with her. She chooses beautiful songs. And I have her to thank for getting me into jazz at all, because I suppose this kind of doubles back to your earlier question about what is my career made up of, and we kind of covered the teaching side, and now in terms of the playing, I've got sort of two main gigs predominantly. Then one which is the function world, and one which is the jazz world. But it was interesting. I was kind of just a sort of rock pop function band drummer for my entire life. Never listened to jazz ever. Didn't like it. I had no interest in it. In all forms of jazz. It could have been the stuff that I'm doing now, like the standards. It could have been big band. It could have been anything. And I just truly had ignorantly no interest in it. It wasn't something I grew up with or had any friends that listened to or was ever really exposed to at all. So it just wasn't a genre that kind of came into my psyche at all. My whole upbringing was just sort of rock and metal bands and all that stuff through the 90s and the grunge scene and all this thing. And anyway, we were put onto a course in France, a week-long jazz summer school thing that a bassist we knew told us about, and sort of said, you should go along to this thing. It's an amazing sort of way in. And Sarah's been a fan of jazz like most of her life and loves that stuff. And we said, maybe we should go on this thing. And I can't deny, I mean, part of me was a little bit like, well, I quite like the sound of a holiday in France. We'll go and I'll ting, ting to ting for a week, get my ride cymbal going and see what's what. So at this point, I mean, I literally, jazz not on the radar at all. And it was
you must have studied it to some degree at Drum Tech and whatever.
Yeah, but again, when you consider, so no, great point and good question. Now, in terms of the jazz stuff at Drum Tech, it was something that we studied in the final term. So we just had like a lesson a week on some basics of jazz and kind of the construct of it, a little bit like an AABA form and some very basic like comping sort of things. And it was just one short term's worth of stuff. So bear in mind, you kind of, again, like everything in life, you get out of it what you put in. And because I wasn't all that interested in jazz at the time, it wasn't a module that I particularly dug into either or whatever. And so I wasn't exposed to it for very long. And it's still at that point, wasn't inspired to listen to that kind of music. So it was just something that I learned a few parts and then it was done. And of course, that was 20 years back or something. Again, it's such a long time ago. So coming at it honestly as like going away on this course, just unable to play jazz. It was just like, and I mean, looking back, stupid and very unlike me. I never put myself in a situation like this ordinarily, but I was like, oh, this will be a lovely holiday. Sarah wants to do it as well. She'll get a lot out of the singing side of it. You know, we'll go. And it was nuts. It was the most intense thing I've ever kind of done in my life, really, being thrown into that environment. And, you know, you talk about out of depth stuff. I mean, it was just hilarious. It was crazy. I mean, I was waking up panicking each morning about going. And I honestly said, if we weren't in France, come the midway point, I would have gone home. I only stuck it out because we were in France and I had a ferry ticket that I couldn't change. So it was kind of like, okay, just dust yourself off, try and get through the next few days and go home, because it was far too difficult for me and terrifying and all of this stuff. But you know what? We drove home at the end of that week, and it was literally just like everything in my life changed. It was like discovering drums again, like I did as a teenager for the first time. Like this light bulb went off about the fact that I was like, yeah, actually, I think I'm going to love this music and I want to learn how to play drums this way and all this stuff. And then since that day, it's pretty much been the entire focus of any practice that I do or any stuff that I listen to. It just literally, it's like two pieces of my life. Completely, there was no gray area or transition. It was just like, I didn't like jazz. I went to France for a week. And now it's all I like is jazz. It's kind of like, it's so black and white. It's weird. So it was incredible. And I mean, what a week, I can't recommend it enough to anyone who wants to like play a bit. You just go and you're kind of off grid, you're just in a chateau in the middle of nowhere, eating cheese, drinking wine and playing jazz absolutely all day and all night. And it's full on and it's exhausting mentally and emotionally. Everyone has a bit of a meltdown at some point during the week. It's hardcore because people are quite passionate about it. And we've subsequently gone back once or twice. Bless you, sir. And we've gone back a couple of times. And I think the good thing is about going back a second or a third time is that you put way less pressure on yourself then, because you kind of know the setup at that point. And you can go and, to a degree, have a little bit of a holiday out of it, and just enjoy it for what it is. But my goodness me, that first year was, truly the most terrifying musical experience of my life.
And how many other drummers were on it?
Well, this is the amazing thing. Like the year that I went, the first year, there was only myself and one other drummer. And the guy who runs the whole thing is a drummer. So he kind of gives some individual lessons and stuff as well. Whereas for Sarah, I mean, bless her, there was like something like 25 vocalists, and every night you have a concert at the end of it from the songs you've been working on in a workshop that morning or something. But then, of course, as a drummer, you're up playing, maybe like 8, 9, 10 songs that evening, every evening. And just when you think you've learned something, you've got to forget it all because you're on to day 2 and it all starts again. It's just nuts. You've got no time to sort of absorb or take things in. And I guess the other big thing for me at that time was that I had no repertoire knowledge at all. So, I'm going there and they're just like, oh, you must know Autumn Leaves, surely. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And who's that by? Metallica? It's just like, it's just insane. I had like, my base level was literally 0. It was incredible. So kind of fast forward a little bit from that, we came back and I was like, okay, well, I really, I'm enjoying this. And want to start to do it. And of course, so what's the best way in is to play, right? I mean, I know, Riza, you and I have had a lot of conversations recently about you for your goals this year, about going to jazz jams and this kind of thing. And the biggest, well, one of the only times in the 20 odd years Sarah and I have been together, we don't argue. Probably to a very unhealthy degree, we don't argue. But like the one big argument we've had in our lives, and I can picture it, we were on a train going somewhere, and she was saying how she wanted to set up a jazz jam, like host one, and all the rest of it. And I was like, oh, great, who are you going to have on drums? And she was like, well, you, of course. And I said, nah, no way. There's no way that I could do it. I'm not ready for it. I'm not capable, like blah, all of this stuff. And we just argued tooth and nail about it. Like she was insisting I should be the house drummer. I was insisting I couldn't do it. Anyway, in the end, she won, of course, which is great. And I'm forever glad she did, because we started this jam and it was really successful and she ran it for a good couple of years. I mean, I think it's actually still going. We haven't been involved with it for a number of years now, but it still goes on.
That's
which is
the
wonderful.
One Mel came down to, wasn't it?
I think you did, yeah. The stepping stones in out near Dorking. Yeah. That's it. So it's still going, which is incredible. But yeah, so Sarah set that up and I was on drums, and And for the first few months, again, it's just that absolutely terrifying thing, because not a lot of drummers turned up in the first few. So you're just playing tune after tune after tune all night of stuff you don't know, and in a, with new people you've not played with before, and learning there are certain, I don't know, unwritten rules then, about when, or terminologies even, things like the form of the song, and when do we do some trades, or who takes a solo, and there's so much just open your eyes, open your ears, and go for it. And of course, there's no structure. So for every song, when I, to that day, for me to learn a song, I'd get the song and I'd learn the drums. But in this world, of course, you don't do that. So not having a page to work from was very odd. It's just like, oh, well, because you might listen to a swing version of it, and then you get to the jam and they want to do it as a samba. So so it's like, you can't learn a version of any of these tunes at all. You just got to kind of get involved and do it that way. So, but it was the best possible education I could have had, sort of quite intense and in a short time, to just build repertoire knowledge as much as anything. And then, thankfully from there, one thing has led to another. And I've worked pretty hard at trying to be a better player, but for the most part, it's been that thing about being sensitive to what's going on around me. And I think that's thankfully why I'm, it's lovely. I get rebooked, and I'm playing. I'm very fortunate at the moment. I get to play with a lot of great players.
I mean, okay, we all think you're brilliant, but what do you think makes you quite an in-demand player?
I think the big thing is kind of what I touched on there, I guess, is that it's really, really about paying attention, to all of the band members or vocalists or whoever you are working with. I'm not the choppiest guy. Like, I'm not. I'll admit it. I've got a few tools, in the box, but there are for sure players out there who are doing far more sort of technical playing than I'm doing. And I, where I can, I get to go, I'll try and watch some of them, because I always want to learn and see other drummers and stuff. But I, with some of the players, you kind of feel like they're playing the amazing drums, but is it strictly serving the song? And I mean, of course, we all come back to this. It doesn't matter whether it's jazz or rock or whatever. At the end of the day, if you're playing Mustang Sally in a pub band, but you just put in like some crazy 30-second note fills all the way throughout it, then it's just not serving the song, whilst the drumming is amazing. And I think it is the same in the jazz world. It is no different, I think, with any genre. So as best I can, it is about finding out what, first and foremost, the band want, what feel are they going for? And certainly throughout some of the developmental sections of it with solos and stuff like that, it's responding to what is going on around you. If you hear a little lick played by the trumpet, you can try and replicate it back to them a little bit. Or even the thing I'm learning a little bit more about now is that it was very much, I think, for the first, while I was building my own confidence and my own chops in playing, it was all about responding to stuff that was going on around me, but I'm kind of learning a bit more now as well, certainly with the guy I'm studying with at the minute, that it's like, as a drummer, you can lead that a little bit as well. And that's a different level of kind of ballsiness, having the confidence to maybe just start putting in something that you're hopeful then that the musicians will respond to, so you lead a bit of the charge in certain bits of the playing and stuff as well. And it's all just, but I think once you've done that and then you work with players who you just love and respect and whatever, it just becomes this really fun thing where it is, well, it's not a cliche, they say it for a reason, but particularly in this type of music, it should be a conversation. It's not just 4 or 5 people all showing you what they can do. It is about knowing when to respond, knowing when to react. And I think dynamics plays one of the biggest parts as well. I do see players out there, and it's jaw-dropping, but it's just thunderous, like maybe from start to finish. And I think something that I really do try and work on is from a dynamic perspective. I really do my best, and especially when working with vocalists. Like, there's no question, with vocalists, it's a very different vibe. And I think probably that's slightly maybe more my comfortable thing, because I do a lot of that with Sarah, of course. I'm very lucky to work with an amazing vocalist on a regular basis and stuff. So I'd say for me, arguably the harder thing for me is just doing, say jazz trio thing, just music and stuff. I think you're a little more sometimes exposed or expected to perhaps do a bit more, be a bit more showy and a bit more choppy and stuff. So I probably need a bit more of that practice myself, which I'm very sorry. Go on.
I think.
Do you find? Oh, sorry. After you, Matt.
Sorry, I was just going to just jump on what you were saying about the vibe of the jazz in general, but also on these, these gigs. I've always liked jazz, because of the freedom there is in it as well.
Yeah,
and the word jazz in itself is, jazz.
How broad? Yeah,
you said, big band and what have you.
Yeah.
But it's so wide and it gives you more choice, and the dynamics and the variance in the speeds and the tempos and the time signatures, and I like that inconsistent. What I can't do is and keep on time, because that's a hard job. That's why drum machines are invented.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be like on the beat all the time. I want to have that flex, because we're human, and I like the idea of jazz. And when you're sitting there watching a band, listening to a band, the dynamics, the up and down, the breathe, the music breathing, and responding to the crowd as well. Because, like you say, like if you can go 100 miles an hour at full, full volume, it suits a certain type of music, not a certain type of music that I particularly like. But it certainly has its place. But the up and down, the variant, the space that it creates, the gaps, and these fills, or solos don't have to be super busy. So I think the not having many chops is possibly an advantage in that style of music anyway, because sometimes you might feel or see that people are just using this opportunity to get as much out as possible in front of this crowd, just to show what they can do.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and I've said it to my fellow bandmates. Like, I kind of make the joke almost that it's just like, I don't really do too much of the choppy stuff because I can't do it, and it kind of raises a laugh and stuff. But it's like, I'm genuinely saying that. They think I'm kind of joking, but it's not. I don't see these things as an opportunity to.
You're being humble, mate. I mean, I watch you and think, God, I wish I had chops like that. Yeah, and I think just being humble, quite frankly.
Well, the word chops is a new word to me in the last few years, to be honest, because I'd never really heard of it apart from lamb chops. And I don't really like lamb chops or pork chops.
They sound pretty dead on the cymbals, though. They're no good.
Unless they're mine, they'll probably be all right. But the chops thing really confused me. I remember, it's probably the last 10 years I never really paid any attention to that word. I would have just called them fancy bits, I suppose. I don't know. But, I've said this before on the podcast. My wife describes some music as like throwing crockery in a washing machine.
Yeah.
Or throwing the drum kit down the stairs. So it's very impressive, but it's not easy listening, is it? To some.
No, absolutely.
But you guys have a look at Andrew's solo at the 606. Which to me is so musical. It's choppy. I couldn't tell you what you're putting in there, but there's technical stuff, but it's so musical and melodic.
Chops, yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, honestly, that's the biggest compliment, because it's kind of. The fact is, I couldn't particularly tell you what I was doing in that moment either. It's a very surreal thing, because again, me being me, I'm not a particularly flashy or showy guy, and it's something I've been battling with a lot, is that thing of trying to take a full chorus solo in jazz, not just trade in, say, 4 bars and stuff. It's something that fills me with dread. But in that room and on that day, I was like, come on, if you're not going to do it in here, when are you going to do it, kind of thing, So Sarah kind of looked across at me to say, do you want one? Because of course you can kind of, a lot of the time I just go, no thanks, and then she'll just come back in. And I was just like, do you know what, sod it, let's just go for this thing. So you find yourself in this kind of a bit of a weird zone. And at that point, then I'm not going, oh my God, can I string a paradiddle onto a something and add a bass drum here? I mean, none of that is applying anymore. And something that's really come out in the recent studies that I've been doing with, so there's a jazz drummer that I just like. He's my guy right now. This British drummer, up north called Gaz Hughes. Like, check him out, the Gaz Hughes Trio, just phenomenal. And I've been having some online lessons with him for a while. And it's incredible because he's, you know, the one of the key focuses that we're discussing is melody, you know, learning the melody of the head and finding ways to replicate that. And actually then what you're discovering is it's not about chops whatsoever. It's about what stickings will work just to replicate and reference part of the melodic content while the melody isn't being played, you know. So while you're soloing, there are still elements where you can kind of think, yeah, I can still sing along to this because I know where I am, you know. So to hear you say that the solo sounded melodic is enormously lovely to hear. Well, thank you, because it's you know, my first lesson with him was incredible. I booked in with this guy because I mean he's incredible. Like his feel and his sound, and he does have like so much technical capability. It's just incredible. And I kind of went to him, I think, in the first instance thinking, oh, I just want to learn like a whole bunch of licks that are going to be amazing, you know. But like lesson 1, he gave me a song by Charlie Parker, and he said, your homework is to come back and sing me the melody next week. You know, my homework was singing a melodic line, not go home and learn this 9-stroke sticking or something. Do you know what I mean? It was fascinating. And from the minute he said that, something clicked, and I was like, Jesus, yeah, we're playing music at the end of the day. You know, drums can be as melodic as the next thing. So it's a different mindset when he put me onto that, for sure.
At a very different level. I'm on a drive I've been practicing a lot of Craig Blundell's stuff, which we all know can get very technical. But I've been trying to practice it without thinking about where I'm going to use it.
Right.
Just so that I've got my chops up to the extent where something might come out musically without me thinking, oh, I'm going to play bar 12 of page 3 of that exercise.
Absolutely.
Just practice it like I did in lockdown, so that one day it will just come out, but I've then got the technical facility to play what I'm thinking.
Yeah. No, you've summed it up. That's perfect. Yeah. You know, you're learning stuff with not really like a particular end goal. It's just you want it to be just absorbed into your muscles and your brain, that it can fall out at the appropriate time. It'll just like happen, not because again, if you can just learn this amazing lick and do it to death till you just can't get it wrong. But if you just shove it in somewhere for the hell of it, then it's like, great, well done, that's lovely. And you know, and maybe another drummer in the room will clap, but it's just like we're not playing to a room full of drummers. I know we often think we are, but it's like
not really musical, is it?
No, it's fascinating. It's all on the same page. So
you play, even now, you play with quite a few singers, different front people. But do you find when playing with Sarah that you have a more intuitive understanding of each other than you do with other singers?
Yeah, I would argue we probably do. I think just by osmosis that we live together, and I hear her singing around the house, and you know, we might, if you know, certainly on when gigs are upcoming, we'll discuss set lists a little bit ahead of time and maybe start to think about some arranged parts or whatever, you know. But then, of course, if you go and just play for someone who you've just met that evening, you don't know how they're going to approach it. I mean, or whatever. So you're just doing your best in the moment to respond to what they want, you know. But I guess naturally, yes, Sarah and I probably are a little more connected in that regard. Yeah. Yeah.
Does she give you harsher feedback than your bandmates, or kind of?
Oh, always. Always do better. Yeah. Play quieter. No. No. I mean, she's the most encouraging person in my life. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's incredible. She's just supportive and encouraging. And apart from you, Riz, of course. Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah.
It's a person.
Right. I'm sorry, but
yeah, I mean, you know,
wearing you on a t-shirt. If we're talking supportive and just like to win that one.
Would you wear that at one of his gigs?
You have done.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, it's happened. This is a thing. Yeah. Actually, that was. Sorry, go on, Mel.
You got one, Reece?
No, it's just that, no, he hasn't, because I made this myself because I had to apologise to Andrew. and it was the only, for some reason, and now I can't quite get my head back into my head then, but for some reason, the obvious way to do it was to have a T-shirt which says, "Please forgive me, Andrew," printed along the bottom. And the two of us, which was so logical. And I honestly can't get my head back into that space, but it was a weird time. It was long.
Can I tell the story about this? Because it was one of the funniest moments ever, and I witnessed this. We were on Freddie G.
You took photos.
Yeah. We were on Freddie G, and there's a friend of all of ours called Hugh Reese, who's a fantastic drummer. And I don't think you know him, Matt, do you?
No.
But at one point in the evening, we're all drinking, apart from
It's our first time that we were all together, wasn't it? We'd all met online, and it was our first time actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you went over to Andrew talking about Hugh for some reason, and you said, "Oh, I love Hugh." Andrew thought you said, "I love you."
Well, I've got to interject.
He's from Wales. I have heard Hugh a lot.
My memory of this is ever so slightly different in terms of what Mel said. And hence why there's now a photograph on the T-shirt is the fact that Mel came over with a camera and said, "Oh, can I have a photo of me and you?" I thought. I was like, "Yeah, of course you can." But she actually said, she was basically handing me the camera because she wanted a photo with Hugh. And I was just
standing
mortified.
next to you.
Yeah. Classic. I
knew you had to be there, but it was hysterical. Yeah. But I didn't know Reese.
Oh yeah, I know Janus.
Hey,
I'm sorry. Carry on.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was. But then I didn't know until later that night in the pub when you told me. And then there are photos somewhere of you explaining to me that, your heart was just a little bit broken when I handed you my phone. That I wanted a photo of us.
All good. All good.
Yes, very silly.
Right. Where are we in the time zone?
We are.
Ooh, no idea.
Yeah, it's late.
An hour and a half in, I think. So
right. We've broken the law.
Is there anything you would like to ask us, Andrew?
Oh my goodness me! I wish you'd asked me if I wanted to ask you something before you just asked me.
I wish you asked me before you asked that question because I don't know if I like that question.
Oh yeah, I could have. Yeah, actually. I mean, well, look, at the end of the day, I suppose possibly not. Matt, I know we haven't met quite in the same way, but I feel like I know you through the podcast. And Mel and Riza, I know you very well. So no, I'm not sure there's anything else to ask. I mean, I would just like to say thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure to do something like this. I never envisaged kind of being on this, and as I say, I mean, it's been lovely. You've had some fantastic guests on here, and I think it's a fantastic podcast. Long may it continue, and you can get some slightly higher notoriety guests than myself next time. But truly, it's been such a pleasure. And yeah, I hope it just gives some, I don't know, maybe even just for anyone out there, possibly with that career change thing in mind or whatever as well, just that little spark of inspiration, hopefully, and stuff as well. I mean, not that I'm wanting to extend this now in any way, we haven't even sort of touched on things like the function work that I've fallen into and stuff as well, which is a big source of income. And that's obviously another good and healthy revenue stream for people to consider if they're getting into this. And I think quite often as well, I think certainly for drummers, that can be a particularly good way in because, for a lot of other musicians, they will often be songwriters, and therefore I think getting into that world can sometimes even seem like a failure to a lot of people or to a greater or less respect. Whereas I think that kind of happens less so with drummers, unless you're a drummer who is very much a songwriter or multi-instrumentalist and stuff, So for us, it's like we're very happy playing covers and things like that, So it's not all about necessarily then pursuing an originals career because, at the end of the day, that's not something that I've done. And I think that would be, well, I know it would be 100 times harder, trying to make that break and make that living, say, just solely through originals music and not sort of doing the function circuit, not doing the teaching, it's a wildly different world. But if
when
you
was
want to
in a
just make a
band-
healthy living teaching and sort of gigging, it's very, very doable. I think it's, well, I'm living proof of it, so yeah.
when you were in a band when you were younger, you said, were they originals or were they covers?
So the very, very first thing I sort of ever did was kind of like a Beatles cover thing in school.
right,
It was just that some guys were starting, and I did some assembly stuff. But no, I mean, pretty much immediately from there, just sort of joined a rock band, and we'd practice at the local pub on the weekends and this kind of thing, and writing music kind of with my brother and bands they're on. And when I moved up, that Sarah and I met through that entire thing. We were both rehearsing on the same day. We used to kind of religiously, me and my band, Sarah and her band, would rehearse in this studio in Acton. Absolute pit of a place, bless it. My God, great memories. It was wonderful, but awful. But we
Panic?
No, it wasn't. It was odd. It was amazing. And I shouldn't diss it because it's got the biggest place in my heart. It was a place called Gracelands, and it was run by this guy who was an enormous Elvis fan, and he would basically run this basement studio in Acton for 10 months of the year, and then bugger off to Gracelands and around America for 2 months of the year. And that was like his whole life. It just like back and forth he went. And it was wonderful. But we'd sort of, when we took breaks and stuff, we sort of got to know each other a bit, and we go into each other's rooms and listen to each other's bands and all this. And then eventually Sarah sort of needed a drummer for her band, and I joined them for a while. And it kind of, that's literally how we met and stayed together. So it's like, it's wonderful. And all of that was based around originals music and the fact that we were all, younger and thought, oh, this is it. We joined a band, we're doing the London circuit. This will be our career path for the rest of our lives. I think like so many young budding musicians do, you just kind of assume it's going to work. And then, you fast forward a long way. And interestingly enough, we just discovered this week a whole bunch of old proper handheld camcorder footage of gigs that we used to do and stuff. And I mean, it's fascinating looking back. We don't recognize ourselves. Like, it's incredible, It's just been an incredible trip down memory lane. And it's bittersweet, of course. Things are very... It's not how you anticipated it necessarily going, but now we're doing vastly different things and are loving what we're doing. So that, it's not bad or good or indifferent. It's just very, very odd, really, But yeah, as I say, like, certainly for me, I think back to that thing, and for a lot of drummers, if you can just get in a decent working band. I mean, again, Riza, bloody hell, you're testament to this. The amount of gigs that you do, it's doable, right? I mean, Christ, if you can do it, you're not even the best drummer in the breaks anymore. I mean, she's on the call now, so. Love you.
I'm about third or fourth.
When were you in Acton? When was that? What year was that roughly?
So 2004 was the year I was predominantly there with drum tech. Yeah.
But no, these rehearsals at Graceland.
Oh God, sorry. Yes, sorry. Of course. Oh, blimey. So pre that, it would have I'd say 2000 and between 2001, 2003 or 4. Yeah, thereabouts.
I can't remember the name of the place that we went to, but I used to rehearse at Acton, or I went through Ealing, so it was either Ealing or Acton, but it was a bit of a dodgy studio down underground, or
it could be it.
That would have been 90. I don't know, probably 94, 5.
Interesting.
And we used to, so I used to go all the way from the southeast to up there to rehearse on a Thursday.
Wow.
Up Earls Court Road and sit there in traffic in my 1967 Beetle.
Yeah, amazing.
But yeah, it was. When you said Acton, I thought, I wonder if that's the same place. That'd be weird. I don't remember what it was called. I think I would have remembered it if it was Graceland.
Yeah, maybe.
We used to rehearse at a place called Panic in Acton, which sadly went out of business a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember Panic as well. We did a few there and stuff. So, like, Gracelands was always our one, but they were a few around there actually, weren't they? You're right. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
there was a load of venues as well. There was a load more big venues, weren't there? We played at the Powerhouse in Islington. We played at the Garage in Highbury Corner. The Mean Fiddler Group kind of ones. We played a lot of them.
Different time. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a different time. But I think the Garage is still going, I think, in Highbury Corner.
Is it?
I think so. I'm sure I saw it. But anyway, You can, anyone that knows, please email in or message us on the Instagram. The Instagram. I love saying the Instagram. It's like I say on the line on purpose, just to be a dad. Contact me on the Instagram. Anyway, okay. Anything else, Mel?
No, I've loved it. Thank you.
It would be really funny if you passed a cup of tea over out of your screen and it appeared in his, because your wall colour looks almost the same. It should actually, what we should have done for a laugh is got a plain white cup or something, and then get Mel to pass it over, and Sarah.
You haven't got a chihuahua, have you? I could just.
If you got a chihuahua, it might be a bit harder to do. That would have been so funny if the chihuahua would come out the other side.
Careful, you can see his willy.
Oh, Gallagher. What are you talking about, Gallagher?
I'll have to censor it, won't I?
It's getting to that time of night. I'm tired. I'm already undressing as we speak, so I'm just straight to bed now. I've got nearly start in the morning.
It's past 9, so you can say. Fuck.
I was talking to Sarah, not you.
Okay, well, thanks for coming in, and
thank you so much, Matt, and Riza and Mel. It's just been a joy. Honestly, thank you. Really appreciate it. Lovely talking with you all. Thank you.
Likewise.
And good night.
Good night.
Night.